What if you found out that some of the most respected gospel legends, the voices you grew up hearing in church, the artists who shaped whole generations, were carrying secrets so explosive they could shake the image the world built around them? These stars stood on stage with bright smiles, powerful vocals, and unshakable faith. But behind closed doors, their families were hiding stories no one dared to speak out loud. Get ready, because you're about to step into 25 of the most shocking family secrets hidden by gospel legends. 25. Bishop Rance Allen. You might think a gospel icon like Bishop Rance Allen lived a picture-perfect family life, but the truth behind the scenes was filled with tension that very few people knew about. His powerful voice made him a legend, yet growing fame created cracks inside his own family. You see stories of jealousy, old misunderstandings, and the weight of his success quietly pushing relatives apart. As his career rose, so did the pressure on the people around him, and that pressure slowly turned into distance. You feel the heartbreak when siblings drift, not because of a lack of love, but because the spotlight shines on one person while the others stand in the shadows. Rance carried that heavy mix of pride and guilt, trying to balance his calling with the expectations of family members who felt ignored. His warm public smile hid years of complicated emotions, difficult conversations, and private pain that never made headlines. It became one of the gospel's most hidden family wounds, wrapped in silence and respect. 24. Leandria Johnson. When you look at Leandria Johnson's rise, you see raw talent and a voice that shakes your soul. But behind the fame sat a family secret that shaped everything she became. Growing up, the people around her expected perfection because she came from a well-known church family, and that pressure created hidden cracks inside the home. Instead of open conversations and emotional support, many moments were wrapped in silence, confusion, and unspoken rules. You feel how a child can drown in expectations when every mistake becomes a scandal and every weakness becomes a sin. Those early struggles followed her into adulthood, shaping her emotional battles and the rebellious spirit the world would later see. She carried hidden pain from arguments, misunderstandings, and complicated relationships that she rarely spoke about. Even as she won awards and stunned audiences, she was still dealing with old family wounds that influenced her choices, her music, and her storms. It became a secret chapter of her life that explained far more than people realized. 23. Tasha Cobbs. Leonard grew into one of the most powerful gospel voices of her generation. But the story behind her music began with a family secret that almost no one outside her circle understood. She grew up in a loving home, yet there was a quiet, emotional heaviness that followed her from childhood into adulthood. Family members often hid their struggles to protect each other, and that silence created a pattern where everyone tried to stay strong even when they were breaking inside. You can feel how that kind of environment shapes a person. Tasha carried unspoken fears, unaddressed grief, and memories of emotional storms that stayed locked away for years. As her voice reached the world, she was still learning how to deal with childhood wounds and family losses that had never received proper healing. Her success brought joy, but it also brought memories she tried to forget. The secret fight inside her home shaped the power of her worship and the depth of her songs, showing that her gift was born from real pain her family never fully discussed. 22. Donald Lawrence. Donald Lawrence always looked calm, wise, and confident when he stood on a stage, but behind that polished image was a family history filled with pressure and quiet conflict. He came from a household that expected greatness, and those expectations shaped him more than people realized. His relatives wanted him to carry the family's reputation with pride, and that weight became heavier as he grew older. The family rarely shared their emotional burdens, choosing silence instead of open conversations, and that silence created hidden fractures no one ever addressed. Donald became the strong one, the problem solver, the person who kept peace even when he felt exhausted. That role slowly turned into a private struggle he could not walk away from. His creativity became an escape, a way to express emotions he was not allowed to express at home. What looked like confidence to the world was often a shield hiding years of stress and responsibility. The unspoken battles inside his family shaped the depth of his writing and the soul of his music. 21. Elbernita Twinkie Clark. Elbernita Twinkie Clark grew up in one of gospel's most powerful families, but behind the harmonies and fame sat a secret tension that shaped the direction of her life. Her musical gift made her the centerpiece of the Clark family, and that spotlight created emotional pressure that few people knew about. She was expected to write, lead, teach, and guide. And those expectations created quiet jealousy, misunderstandings, and strict rules inside the home. You can feel how a gifted child can become both celebrated and controlled at the same time. Twinkie struggled with feeling trapped between loyalty to her family and the desire to build her own life. Every major decision came with emotional battles, long arguments, and moments of heartbreak that stayed hidden from the public. As her fame grew, the tension inside the family grew too. Her choices, especially the ones connected to her music, caused rifts that took years to heal. Those private family struggles shaped the softness of her voice, the depth of her writing, and the pain behind her quiet smile. 20. Dorinda Clark Cole. Dorinda Clark Cole became known for her fiery vocals and unstoppable energy, but her strength came from surviving a family secret that stayed buried for many years. She grew up in a strict home where mistakes were not easily forgiven, and emotional pressure was something everyone learned to hide. Dorinda often carried pain she did not know how to express. She felt the weight of family expectations, the constant need to be perfect, and the fear of disappointing the people she loved the most. That pressure shaped her childhood and followed her into adulthood. Certain family struggles were never openly discussed, and the silence created emotional scars she carried quietly through her career. Even as she inspired audiences with her confidence, she was healing wounds the world never saw. Behind every powerful performance was a woman pushing through old memories, trying to rise above the turmoil she grew up with. That hidden hurt became one of the reasons her voice feels so emotional and so real, because every note carried a piece of a past her family preferred to keep private. 19. Karen Clark Sheard. Karen Clark Sheard became a gospel icon with a voice that could move a crowd in seconds, but behind that bold sound was a family fear she spent years trying to overcome. Growing up, the Clark household demanded strength, discipline, and spiritual excellence, and that environment created unspoken stress that each child handled differently. Karen carried the fear of failure, the fear of disappointing her mother, and the fear of letting down a family name respected across the gospel world. These fears came from childhood moments that were never fully talked about, emotional pressure that stayed hidden behind rehearsals, performances, and church expectations. As she grew into fame, those old fears followed her, shaping her choices, her relationships, and the quiet battles inside her heart. Even after becoming a legend, she still dealt with the emotional weight she picked up as a child. Her soft spirit and gentle presence came from surviving moments of tension, misunderstandings, and silent pain that her family tried to keep out of the public eye. 18. Marvin Winans. Marvin Winans stood at the center of one of gospel's most powerful families. Yet even in a house full of music, there were hidden divides no one talked about. Growing up with strong personalities all around him, Marvin often felt caught between being a supportive brother and carving out his own identity. The Winans name carried huge expectations, and that pressure created quiet tension that lingered behind the scenes. Relatives sometimes clashed over decisions, roles, and the direction of their music, and Marvin became the one who tried to keep everything balanced. It was a heavy burden for a young man who only wanted peace. Those hidden disagreements created emotional distance that the public never saw. Even as he built his own legacy, old misunderstandings stayed beneath the surface, shaping how he handled relationships, leadership, and fame. His smooth voice and calm presence came from learning to navigate a household filled with love, responsibility, and unspoken strain. That private family divide became one of the hidden stories behind his rise. 17. CeCe Winans. CeCe Winans grew up in a family admired across the gospel world, but the world never saw the emotional expectations placed on her shoulders. As the only daughter among brothers who were already becoming stars, she felt the pressure to be perfect in every area of life. CeCe learned early that mistakes were not just personal, they were tied to the family's reputation. That silent expectation shaped how she spoke, dressed, behaved, and even how she made choices about her future. She carried fears she could not express, moments of insecurity she kept hidden, and the internal battle of trying to honor her calling while meeting everyone's standards. Her gentle personality came from navigating a home where love was strong, but discipline was stronger. Fame only intensified the pressure, creating situations where she had to hide her emotions to protect the family's image. Those hidden expectations shaped the softness of her spirit and the depth of her message. Born from years of carrying a quiet emotional load no one outside the home understood. 16. BeBe Winans. BeBe Winans became beloved for his soulful voice, but behind his confident presence was a long family conflict that shaped much of his life. Growing up with so many talented siblings created an environment filled with competition, comparisons, and misunderstandings. Even though the Winans family is known for unity, there were private disagreements about music plans, career decisions, and the pressures of ministry. BeBe often found himself at the center of these conflicts, forced to choose between loyalty and independence. The emotional strain showed in the way he carried himself, strong on the outside, heavy-hearted on the inside. The public never saw the arguments, the long nights of frustration, or the quiet moments where he questioned his place in the family. These hidden battles followed him into adulthood, shaping his voice, his songwriting, and his determination to build something of his own. The conflict became a hidden thread in his journey, influencing choices the world interpreted as confidence, but were really survival. 15. Andraé Crouch. Andraé Crouch changed gospel music forever, but his revolutionary sound came from surviving childhood pain most people never knew about. In his early years, the Crouch household carried a heavy emotional burden tied to a family secret involving illness, loss, and fear that the public never fully learned. Andraé grew up watching relatives struggle silently, trying to stay strong while dealing with grief that lingered for years. That unspoken sorrow shaped his sensitivity, his creativity, and the deep emotion in everything he wrote. Music became his escape, the only place where he felt safe expressing emotions no one discussed at home. Even as he found fame, those old memories stayed with him, influencing how he loved, trusted, and worked. The world celebrated his talent without knowing the pain behind it. That hidden family story became the foundation of his artistry, giving his songs a haunting honesty that only comes from lived experience. His breakthroughs in gospel were fueled by a childhood shaped by silence, strength, and wounds he learned to turn into worship. 14. Thomas A. Dorsey. Thomas A. Dorsey is remembered as the father of modern gospel music, but his journey began with a family tragedy that changed the entire direction of his life. Long before fame, Dorsey carried the emotional weight of loss that his family rarely spoke about. The silence around that heartbreak created a deep loneliness inside him, even as he grew into adulthood. When more tragedy struck later in life, the pain reopened old wounds he had been carrying since childhood. Instead of breaking, he found a way to pour that sorrow into music, shaping a sound that touched millions. His most powerful songs came from nights spent wrestling with memories he never shared publicly. The world only saw the composer, not the man dealing with grief that shaped every note he wrote. That unspoken family pain turned into a lifelong struggle, but it also gave birth to the emotional depth that defined gospel for generations. His story shows how one hidden moment inside a family can shape a legacy far beyond the home where the pain began. 13. Tremaine Hawkins. Tremaine Hawkins grew up surrounded by gospel royalty, but the world never saw the emotional pressure that shaped her early life. Her family had a long history of musical excellence, and that reputation created expectations that were almost impossible to meet. Tremaine often felt like she had to live up to standards she never set for herself. Every performance, every choice, and every move she made was silently compared to those who came before her. That pressure created private tension at home, where disagreements and misunderstandings were tucked away to keep up a polished public image. As she entered adulthood, those expectations followed her into her career, shaping her emotional struggles and the strong personality she became known for. Behind her confident stage presence was a woman battling childhood fears, unspoken family rules, and moments of loneliness she could not explain. Her powerful voice came from surviving a home where love was real, but pressure was heavier than anyone admitted. That hidden weight became a quiet part of her journey, influencing the pain and passion in every song she ever sang. 12. Walter Hawkins. Walter Hawkins became a gospel icon, but the beginning of his story was marked by a quiet family divide that shaped his entire outlook on life. He grew up watching relatives struggle with disagreements that were never fully resolved. The tension created an emotional split inside the home where love and conflict lived side by side. Walter learned early how to navigate sensitive situations, choosing calmness and compassion even when things around him felt uncertain. That environment taught him to carry responsibility far beyond his years. Music became the only place where he could express the emotions he was expected to hide. As fame arrived, the pressure inside the family grew stronger. Some relatives embraced his success, while others felt overshadowed or unheard. Walter carried those feelings privately, turning them into songs filled with honesty and depth. The quiet divide inside his family shaped his character, his leadership, and the emotional weight behind the sound that changed gospel forever. 11. Edwin Hawkins. Edwin Hawkins shocked the world with a sound that crossed gospel into mainstream music. But behind the scenes was a family conflict that most people never knew existed. His rise to fame created a shift inside the household, where relatives struggled with sudden attention, unexpected responsibility, and the fear of losing control. Edwin's bold musical choices caused disagreements with family members who preferred tradition, and those disagreements soon turned into emotional distance. The pressure of leadership fell heavily on Edwin, even when he felt uncertain or misunderstood. His smile often hid the stress of juggling family loyalty with creative vision. The conflict became a quiet part of his journey, shaping how he handled success, relationships, and the weight of expectation. Although the world celebrated his achievements, Edwin carried memories of tension, arguments, and hard decisions that stayed buried beneath his polished public image. That hidden struggle became one of the powerful forces behind his groundbreaking sound. 10. Vanessa Bell. Vanessa Bell Armstrong rose to fame with a voice full of power, but but her journey was shaped by a family storm she rarely spoke about. Growing up, she experienced emotional ups and downs that left lasting marks on her confidence and identity. Her family loved her deeply, but they also carried struggles that created chaotic moments inside the home. Arguments, misunderstandings, and financial pressure created an unstable environment that pushed Vanessa to mature faster than most children. She learned to be strong even when she felt scared. As her career took off, those old memories lingered, shaping her choices and the vulnerability in her performances. She balanced fame with private battles, trying to protect her loved ones while healing wounds they never fully addressed. The world saw a powerhouse vocalist, but behind that strength was a woman still fighting through emotional storms from her past. That hidden chapter became part of her soul, turning her pain into unforgettable music. 9. Yolanda Adams. Yolanda Adams became known as the First Lady of modern gospel, but her strength came from surviving silent expectations inside her childhood. Home. She grew up in a disciplined household where excellence was the standard and emotions were rarely shown. Yolanda learned early to stay composed, stay responsible, and stay strong even when she felt overwhelmed. Her family expected her to set an example, and that pressure sometimes made her feel isolated. She carried burdens she could not share, worries she could not voice, and fears she kept buried. As her platform grew, so did the expectations from her family and community. Every decision she made was watched closely, and that responsibility created a quiet emotional strain. Yet she used that hidden pressure to build confidence, grace, and the calm presence people admire today. The truth behind her success was a childhood shaped by strict rules, high standards, and emotional silence that forced her to become stronger than she ever expected. 8. Kirk Franklin. Kirk Franklin became one of the most influential figures in modern gospel. But behind his bold leadership was a childhood filled with secrets his family kept locked away. He was raised in a complicated environment where several relatives played parental roles at different times, creating confusion, emotional distance, and a constant sense of instability. Kirk grew up wondering why certain truths were hidden from him, especially regarding his biological parents. That uncertainty created a deep fear of abandonment that he carried into adulthood. While the world saw confidence, creativity, and charisma, he was quietly working through wounds formed long before fame. Those early secrets shaped his personality, pushing him to succeed, to prove himself, and to express emotions he could never talk about at home. Every song he wrote came from a place of longing, healing, and searching for belonging. His groundbreaking sound wasn't just innovation, it was therapy. The hidden truth about his family history shaped the fire, vulnerability, and emotion that became his signature. 7. Fred Hammond. Fred Hammond grew into a gospel giant, but the root of his strength came from surviving a painful family break during his childhood. He grew up in a home where love was real, but stability was fragile. His parents' relationship struggled under pressure, leading to emotional distance, private arguments, and moments that left deep marks on Fred's heart. He often felt caught in the middle, trying to stay strong, while watching the people he loved face challenges they didn't know how to fix. That emotional weight followed him for years, shaping his understanding of love, trust, and responsibility. Music became the place where he processed everything he couldn't say out loud. As his career took off, those early wounds still influenced his writing, his vulnerability, and his compassionate spirit. Fans heard healing in his songs because healing was something he had always needed. The painful break inside his family became the quiet force behind his powerful message of restoration. 6. Shirley Caesar. Shirley Caesar grew up in a deeply spiritual home, but her journey into gospel greatness began with a family loss that stayed with her for the rest of her life. At a young age, she watched her family deal with heartbreak that they tried to hide from outsiders. The silence around that loss created a mixture of confusion and sorrow that surely carried into her teenage years. It forced her to grow up faster, take responsibility earlier, and find strength before she even understood what strength really meant. That tragedy became a turning point, pushing her deeper into faith and giving her voice a level of emotion far beyond her age. As she rose to fame, she continued to carry memories of that moment, letting it guide her purpose and the compassion she showed toward others. The secret pain her family carried became the foundation of her ministry, shaping the way she sang, preached, and connected with the world. 5. Mahalia Jackson. Mahalia Jackson's voice transformed gospel music, but the power behind it came from surviving a painful family trauma she rarely discussed. Growing up in a strict and crowded home, she witnessed moments of emotional turmoil and hardship that shaped her spirit long before she stepped on a stage. Certain relatives carried deep wounds of their own, and that tension affected the entire household. Mahalia learned early to stay strong, to stay quiet, and to protect her emotions. The world never knew how much she endured inside those walls, or how those struggles pushed her toward music as her only escape. Her bold, soulful sound came from years of turning pain into praise. As she grew older, she kept most of her childhood stories hidden, not wanting to reopen wounds or burden others with her truth. That hidden trauma shaped everything, from her stage presence to her fierce commitment to justice and dignity. Her voice carried the weight of a past she tried to leave behind. 4. James Cleveland. James Cleveland stood at the center of gospel innovation, but his strength was built on top of a complicated family history filled with emotional battles. He grew up in a household where financial pressure, personal disagreements, and strict expectations created a heavy atmosphere. As a child, he felt responsible for keeping peace, even when the adults around him struggled with their own issues. That role shaped his personality, turning him into a leader long before he became one on stage. He carried worries he could not share, fears he didn't understand, and memories that followed him throughout his career. The world saw confidence, talent, and authority, but behind that image was a man who learned leadership through survival. The struggles inside his home pushed him toward music as a place of freedom, shaping his voice, his creativity, and his groundbreaking approach to gospel. Those hidden family battles became the quiet engine behind the legacy he built. 3. Donnie McClurkin. Donnie McClurkin became a powerful voice in gospel, but the roots of his calling began with a childhood filled with pain his family kept quiet. Growing up, he faced emotional turmoil that came from both family tragedy and the silence surrounding it. When one of his siblings passed away, the loss shook the entire household. Everyone grieved differently, and the sadness created emotional gaps that were never fully talked through. Donnie was young, frightened, and confused, yet expected to stay strong even when he didn't know how. On top of that, tension inside the home made it hard for him to feel safe expressing his feelings. Music became his escape, the one place where he could pour out everything he was holding inside. As he grew older, those early wounds shaped his desire to help others heal. The world saw a minister full of passion and compassion, but that fire came from surviving things he rarely spoke about. His strength was built on years of carrying hidden pain, turning it into purpose each time he stepped on a stage. 2. Albertina Walker. Albertina Walker earned the title Queen of Gospel. But behind her success was a family sacrifice she kept hidden for most of her life. Growing up in a home with limited resources, she watched her parents work tirelessly just to keep the family together. At a young age, Albertina took on responsibility far beyond her years, helping raise younger siblings and carrying the weight of household duties. She often put her own dreams aside so her family could survive. Those sacrifices shaped her discipline, her compassion, and her determination. As her career began, guilt from leaving home followed her. She worried about the family members she had helped care for, wondering if they still needed her. The public saw a strong, joyful performer, but behind the scenes, she carried memories of struggle, fear, and duty. Her rise to fame was built on a foundation of personal sacrifice she rarely talked about. The strength in her voice came from years of choosing responsibility over comfort, shaping the woman she became. 1. Sister Rosetta Tharpe. Sister Rosetta Tharpe changed music for generations, but her journey began with a family rift that shaped her entire life. She grew up in a home filled with faith and music, yet tension quietly simmered beneath the surface. Her mother had big dreams for her and pushed her toward ministry, but other relatives felt the pressure was too intense. This created disagreements that Rosetta often witnessed as a child. She learned early to balance loyalty with her own desires, which created emotional confusion she carried into adulthood. When she started performing in new styles and venues, that old family tension resurfaced. Some relatives supported her bold choices, while others felt she was breaking traditions. Rosetta loved her family deeply, but the unspoken divide stayed with her, shaping her independence and the strong personality she became known for. The world celebrated her groundbreaking sound, but behind every performance was a woman shaped by family conflict she rarely revealed. That hidden rift helped forge her courage, pushing her to redefine gospel and transform music forever. And there you have it, 25 family secrets that gospel legends tried to keep tucked away, even while standing in the brightest spotlight. These stories remind you that fame doesn't erase pain, and even the most inspiring voices can carry some of the heaviest truths in silence. But here's the real question: what other hidden stories are still buried in the world of gospel, waiting to be uncovered next? If you want more deep dives like this, more untold stories, more shocking revelations, more truth behind the shine, then hit that like button, smash that subscribe, and turn on your notifications. Don't miss a single moment, because the next secret might be bigger than anything you've heard today. Thing you've heard today. Thing you've heard today. Thing you've